Hi there, Sean.
Hi.
Hi everybody, it's Matt from Walks Preston, and today we are doing a live StreamYard interview with Sean Bolland from Adventure Trails. But Sean is the Nav guy, and myself and Sean met, just earlier this week. We had a walk together up Clough Pike, up in the Trough of Bolland, and we got wet, didn't we, Sean?
We did. It was absolutely tanking it down, but it was great fun though.
We'd arranged to meet and kind of get to know each other a little bit, and I think the whole walk experience in the wet outdoors was very blustery. Was a great place to do that. So thanks for sharing that experience with me. But I think we found some similarities in our life experience, our love for the outdoors, and our desire to help people get out there walking, get out there exploring, and to actually simplify things. I think a lot of people, at least what I've noticed over the whole lockdown period this year and last year, is a lot more people are getting into walking or getting back into walking. But then I'm hearing a lot of people I'm bored because I'm only walking the same route, or I'm only walking from home, and not seeing that pathway to go a little bit further afield. And they're then maybe concerned that they're walking by themselves, or they don't want to do it by themselves. They want to be with a group of people. And so everything that we do around walking at Walks Preston is about bringing people together, building their confidence, helping them to build their fitness and expand their confidence and horizons about where they can walk. And I'm really interested to kind of hear your take on keeping it simple and navigation. Why should our viewers now invest 90 minutes into this navigation for hikers online masterclass?
Well, yeah, good question. And I would say, with navigation, it's great in that, it really opens up the countryside. There's something along the lines of 700,000 miles of public rights of way in England and Wales, and I think the whole country together only uses a fraction of those. And some basic nav skills really opens things up, and it means you can get out there and explore. I mean, being on a guided group, as Matt said, is great, but then just having that ability just to have the confidence to think about different routes is fabulous. I think a lot of people think, well, in this day and age of digital devices, I don't need any navigation skills, and I wouldn't necessarily say that's true. I think some basic navigation skills, like the kind we talk about in that 90 minutes, it means you can use devices more effectively, because we do live in the digital world at the end of the day. And so some basic nav skills can really help you out, because a couple of quick downsides of devices is, you've still got to plan your route and know where to go. And you think, well, I can just pull a route off the internet. But what you'll probably find is that there is a billion gajillion different routes of very varying quality, and it's difficult to know what they are. Or when you're out on a route, you might want to go totally crazy and then just go a little slightly different route, or have to cut the walk short. And if you're following a specific line, it makes it a bit more awkward to do that. So digital devices are great, but having some basic nav skills is really, really useful, and it doesn't take long to get them. The other thing about navigation, I would say, is that sometimes people have had a bad experience in the past. You might have been leading a family or friends, and you were in charge of the navigation, trying to follow a map, and you weren't confident. And then somebody turns around to you and says, "Do you know where you're going?" And people can just literally go to pieces and think, "I can't navigate," and they don't want to go anywhere near a map and a compass ever again, which is a bit of a shame. And yeah, I would also say that most people, even if they've been sort of using OS maps even for 10, 20 years, or even fairly new to them, a lot of people make the same mistakes over and over again. So this 90 minutes, what I really want to do is just give some quite simple points that can stop those mistakes that people keep doing time over and time over. A big one, I know this sounds really simple, but a really big one is, whenever you look at the map, make sure it's the right way up. Which you might think, well, I'll do that. It sounds obvious, and it is obvious. But I mean, I do face-to-face practical classes as well as the online ones, and I know why it happens, that people try to make sense of the map when it's not the right way up, and that's where it all goes pear-shaped. So it's not just a case of me saying that, keep your map the right way, but I just sort of go through how and when to make sure that you do that. And the penny seems to drop with people. So little things like that, we can cover that in this 90 minutes. And it sounds simple. It is simple, but then the penny just drops, and then you can get the benefit of that. And another little simple thing, you know, just having the right piece of kit. When you mention the word compass to somebody, there's a good chance that you might have one of these if you're into navigation. This is a sort of full base plate compass. You can buy these or similar looking ones.
They're frightening. Yeah, don't like them.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Some people get a bit freaked out by it. Whereas, you know, if I show you something like that, that is also
much better. Yeah,
a backup compass. And I just get to show you in this class that there is more than one option. And you know, having something like that, you can have it on your wrist, so it's much easier to keep your map the right way up. And you know, these are great for certain things, but not necessarily for when it comes to navigation essentials. The basic.
Mine's always in my rucksack. Yeah. So.
Well, you're not alone there, Matt. I'd say a lot of people think they go out and they think, well, I'm organised, I've got me a compass, but it's
got all the kit. Yeah.
If it's in the bag, you're not using it, and people tend to get the compass out of the bag when things have already gone pear-shaped, and then it's even harder to sort of pull it back. So it's just worthwhile thinking about little bits of kit like that, and just to demystify all sorts of stuff. So there we go. Yeah, I mean, that full base plate compass, all those people get freaked out by, you know, the scales, the spinny bits.
Too much on that.
You don't necessarily need it for the kind of navigation that we're talking about.
Sure. And you mentioned about the digital sort of apps and things like that these days. You know, we're trying to promote at Walks Preston now, particularly during lockdown, but again, going forward for the rest of the year, something called Walk of the Week, where we're actually using an app called Outdoor Active, but there are many other different apps that are out there that have the mapping software in, and we create the route. And what we found with Outdoor Active is it's great. You click to navigate once you're at the route, and then it talks you through where you need to turn. But every so often, it'll just say you are 15 meters off the route, you need to go back. You're actually still on the route, but you know, every so often there might be a GPS sort of error, and if you're not prepared at least a little bit to have looked at the map, got a little bit of spatial awareness, you're going to get yourself in a pickle potentially. And this kind of course, I think, is something that will help a lot of our members kind of easily navigate through those sort of minor challenges when they're using particular apps. Plus, your battery can always go dead. I've had some guys this weekend doing the walks, and they got halfway around and they were like, phone's gone dead, or this has happened, or there's no signal, and that can always happen, particularly if you're further out, you know, away from a town area where there might be a lot more signal coverage. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're quite right to draw the distinction there that, I mean, you know, if you're going up, if you're in lowland areas, which, you know, a lot of the Preston walks will be quite, you know, more lowland, you know, there is much less of a sort of safety issue. But if you're going into the Scottish Highlands or High Lake District, obviously, in terms of navigation, you need to have a bit more thought about how you're organising your navigation, whether you need to have a bit more than just device when you're going into mountainous areas. Even though at the same time, the similar principles apply, but yeah, you just need to have that safety aspect. But
so you've kind of told us a little bit about how to keep things simple and why we should invest some time in that course. And the course itself is going to be on. We've got one at 10 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, the 4th of February. And one at 7 p.m. for those, unfortunately, those who are worker bees, and they can't make it in the daytime. For our retirees can do that. You know, we want everyone to have that opportunity, particularly our monthly members from Walks Preston. It's going to be free of charge for monthly members, but otherwise it's just £20 for that the hour and a half session, whether you attend in the morning or the afternoon if you're a non-member of Walks Preston. But you've told us about how to keep things simple, why we should invest time in coming on that course. You've clearly got a lot of experience about navigation, and you're calling yourself the Nav Guy, which is really nice. But tell me a little bit about who you are and why we should listen to you. You know, what's your backstory and where did you get into navigation?
Yeah, I know the Nav Guy sounds a bit cheesy, but it sort of is what it's, which is a bit of fun. And so I've been going out into the mountains and on the trails for many decades. I'm nudging 50, and I started orienteering when I was 8, back in the sort of very early 1980s. And I grew up orienteering competitively, and that's where a big sort of head start in my sort of navigation came from, because with orienteering, it is very much navigation, but navigation at speed as well. And if you're going to navigate at speed, you've got to simplify everything. And simplification is great. That's what we've been talking about. And that's what I like when it comes to teaching navigation. But as well as that orienteering background, I've done a number of things in life, town planner, property developer, things like that. But I became a mountain leader about 5 or 6 years ago now. And as part of that, I actually sort of went through the process of becoming a qualified navigation tutor as well. So even though I've got loads of experience, actually done professional courses so that I can deliver qualifications in navigation. And pulling all that together, that's great in terms of being able to teach the basics. But I do teach more advanced navigation for things like mountain runners, where they're charging over hill and dale with the sleeping bags and tents in the back. We're not getting into that. We're just we're doing the more, just the general walking stuff, which is just as good, but just slightly different. And just in terms of experience as well, and just bear this in mind, because I've come across this a lot. I've had people that have come on my 90-minute navigation classes, and at the end of it, they said, Sean, I've actually learned more in that 90 minutes than I did on a 3 full-day face-to-face class in the Lake District a couple of years ago. And I've had that a few times. And
awesome.
Because the reason for that, I would say, is, I don't want to decry other navigation tutors, but a lot of other navigation tutors do sort of overcomplicate things. And for example, if you've got somebody who's more from a military background, the precision is drummed in, which is great for certain things, but we don't necessarily need that amount of precision when we're talking about general walking in the rolling countryside.
We're just Matt and Sean, and we're going out for a walk, and we don't want to make it super technical, do we?
That's it. Yeah, the military background. If you're in a war zone, you don't want to stand on an unexploded bomb, so you need to be dead accurate in navigation. Or I tell you what, another great example is a lot of mountain leaders. If they're into winter mountaineering on the high stuff, you have to be very exact, because you don't want to disappear down a crevasse or off a cliff. And if it's full snow conditions and the mist is in, you literally can't tell where the sky finishes and the land starts. Your navigation has to be very accurate, but that's different to what we're talking about, this sort of general countryside walking.
Yeah, that's a different level of tuition after going through this 90-minute course, which you can provide.
That's a different thing altogether. Yeah, we're not getting into that. And if people want to progress things, they can do. But we're at the other end of the scale there, and so a lot of even introduction courses, some navigation tutors may sort of just go over detail thinking about winter navigation, but we're not getting into that.
So excellent. That's really helpful. So what I'm really trying to sort of tie into now is that you have become part of Walks Preston. You're a qualified Walks guide, and you have lots of skills, and you've got the insurance, and the experience, capability. So we really want to get you providing some walks during this year. Obviously, once we're out of the constraints of the one-to-one lockdown scenario, we want to get moving away from Preston into further out into wilder areas, let's say, and both you leading some of our members on walks, but then maybe some of those walks being technically specific. Maybe they've done the navigation course, this 90-minute course, and maybe some of the elements of that you'll do some training or helping or guiding them whilst they're on that particular walk. So
yeah,
would you be up for that?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that sounds, and I very much look forward to doing that kind of thing. I think we're all quite blessed. I actually live in Lancaster, just up the road. And I think, to be honest, living in the Northwest, we're blessed, I would say, because even though you've got nice countryside in and around Preston, it's not far at all. Just to drive out to the Forest of Bolland, even as far as the edge of the Yorkshire Dales, is not that far. It's very easily to do in a morning or an afternoon or a day or whatever. And you can just start to do a little bit more adventurous and build things up. So I've done a lot of mountain leading over the past 5 years, and I just love being out there, to be honest. And it's great. It brings being outside. I mean, I'm preaching to the converted with everybody on this group who's got into Nordic walking and had a big new lease of life and all that sort of stuff, and that's great. But there's nothing better than I like than to be out there, and also to sort of, you know, pass over a little bit of knowledge. For example, you know, just a little bit of local history on the little bits of stuff that I do, or mountain flowers. I'm not, you know, I'm not a botanist by any stretch of the imagination, but there's just
it's nice
things
to pass
that you
on
pick
that.
up. Absolutely, and it just, you know, it makes everything just that little bit more interesting, more enjoyable. And if you've been on the online class as well, then it's a perfect opportunity to sort of do a bit more practical navigation skills follow up. And I mean, it could be the case if we were doing a walk, we might not, you know, it might not be a full navigation class. You can drop in and out of trying it, but you can certainly, I could just show you how to very easily improve things. And because the 90-minute class is great, but it does need a little bit of follow-on practical tuition.
Yeah, we can all learn something.
Absolutely, and I tend to, you know, if we are going to be doing a little bit of that in a particular route, then, you know, I'm more than happy to supply the compasses and the maps and that sort of thing, so you don't need to mess about getting prepared for it. And yeah, just build those little bit of skills knowledge, and then, you know, as you come further north from Preston, you've got the edge of the Forest of Bolland. We can go into there a little bit, and then possibly again on certain occasions, Mark, we can do a little thing up in South Lakes, and I do like, if we're doing I do like to try and take people on maybe the less busy routes. I mean, something like, obviously going up and down Scafell Pike, it's a big trail of people going up and down because it's so busy.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to go up the biggest hill, but there is, you know, literally, well, there's an unlimited amount of other places that you can go to just to keep off the beaten track there and really experience the Lake District. And, you know, for the reasons why it is now a World Heritage Site, you know, we can sort of, you know, really appreciate that if we can just get away from the crowds a little bit.
Yeah, I think that'll be really important, particularly after lockdown. You know, even during last lockdown, you could see media coverage of people in jeans and t-shirts queuing up on Snowdon. And we're interested in getting out there, exploring the outdoors, connecting with nature, connecting with the outdoors, learn a bit of navigation, enjoying, you know, looking at flowers, listening to birds, whatever it might be, exploring new locations. But we don't want to be kind of queuing behind somebody who's not prepared.
Well, that's the thing. It does. I mean, I think if it is really busy, it does take away from that sort of mountain countryside experience. And don't get me wrong, the explosion of people going out walking I think is great. You know, people are sort of starting to realise that what a lot of us guys in here have known for a long time is that it's great to be out there, which is a real positive thing. But the people tend to want to start off going to the places that they've heard of, Scafell Pike, Helvellyn. So places like little villages like Glenridding at the edge, you know, become overrun in many respects, but it just a tiny little bit of knowledge and background, and then you can just do these other fabulous things and other places which aren't overcrowded. And it's actually quite good in terms of erosion and less environmental impact, you know, to go on a different route to try and, you know, fewer footprints out in the hills, which is good, because it can get a bit busy up there. And there's been another, as well as walking, there's been like an explosion in people wild camping, which is great. I've done wild camping, but there's a few people that have been going up not quite understanding what wild camping is. Wild camping is great, and the idea is that you take everything off the hill, but a lot of people haven't quite twigged. They've got the first.
A lot of people don't realise that.
But they just leave the tent up there, leave the booze cans, and have a burnt out fire and come down. That's just fly tipping. But, you know, done a bit of education, done responsibly, then you know, that sort of thing is really good.
Super. We've got a comment. It's from Helen Greenup. Looking forward to doing the navigation course.
Oh, great.
Set herself a challenge. She's going to walk a route up in along the Caledonian Canal. I think that's the route. I forget the name of the actual route, but
nice.
That's her plan, to do that at some point over a multi-day sort of experience. But she's kind of building her health and fitness up at the minute to be able to do that. So excellent for Helen.
That'll be through the Great Glen then, wouldn't it? Through the Caledonian Canal. Yeah, lovely. Spectacular.
That'd be amazing. So really thank you for that. I think, you know, for our group, then we got a number of them already booked on that session. And, you know, anyone who's watched this today, then if you're a member, then it's free. So take up that opportunity while you can. It's going to be a great course. There are 2 opportunities, 10 in the morning on the 4th and 7 in the evening on the 5th. Brilliant, Sean.
Yeah.
I think that's great for today. I just want to kind of cover a couple of other things that I think will be important for some other viewers. So you've been speaking about Scafell Pike, and that's obviously one of the most well-known peaks in the country. Tell me a little bit about some of the challenge events that you've done or organised.
Yeah, I've. I mean, there's quite a few. There's quite a few different types of challenge events out there. It's grown over many years. There's hiking ones, there's walking ones, duathlon ones. I've done a number of guided London to Paris bike rides, which we've sort of, you know, done the support on, and they've been fantastic. And then I think if you mention the word challenge event to somebody, a lot of people think of the National Three Peaks Challenge, because it's been around a long time, and a lot of people have heard of it. And pre-COVID, it obviously was a very popular thing to do. So I've led a lot of National Three Peaks challenges as well, and that involves walking up Ben Nevis, followed by Scafell Pike, followed by Snowdon. And most people, generally, the idea is to try and do it in a one-er. People talk about 24 hours, but you know, it's a very loose term. There's no specific rules as doing the National Three Peaks Challenge. But when I've led them, it's generally been, you know, starting at the top, going up Ben Nevis, coming down Scafell Pike and Snowdon. And it's a great thing to do, and it is definitely a challenge. So for most people, if you're going to take on something like that, you know, most people would be able to do it, but you absolutely need to prepare for it. I have had a few people turn up on things like a National Three Peaks Challenge, and they haven't prepared for it, and they've paid the price, and they've got, you know, they've turned up in the minibus at Scafell Pike and they said, "I'm not going anywhere." So you do need to prepare for it and train up for it. And it's great. I would particularly get a lot of southern-based people in particular that have never been to. Well, a lot of them haven't been to Scotland, but may have been to Scotland, may have been to Glasgow and Edinburgh, but never been to the Highlands. So on that particular challenge, it's the walking is one thing, but another big is the drive up to Fort William. You're going through Glencoe, Rannoch Moor, dropping down the west coast, the Lochs. Near the Caledonia Canal that Helen mentioned before.
Yeah, West Highland Way.
The journey in itself is a fabulous thing, as well as taking on those three big peaks. Obviously, they're not the Ben Nevis is the highest in Scotland, Scafell Pike highest in England, and Lake District, Snowdon highest in Wales. They're not the highest 3 peaks in Britain, because they're all in Scotland, obviously, because they've got the biggest mountains. But yeah, it's a great thing to do. As well as a walk, I also describe it as a road trip, because you get to see an awful lot of the whole of Britain in that 24-hour period, and it's good fun. And if you've never been up them before, it's quite efficient. You know, you're doing them all in one hit, as opposed to, you know, spreading it out. But having said that, you know, I also do 3-day National Three Peaks challenges where we go up one every day. It's a bit more sedate, hotel bed, a bit more civilized, I suppose.
That sounds a bit more civilized, yeah.
Yeah, but most people want to go for the hardcore in a one-er type thing. And
yeah, I guess there's like a team building kind of aspect. So maybe for a company or a business or a team, team, getting them together, and again, maybe not for 3 days because they can't afford the time for different members of a company team. So all done in one go. So we can arrange all of those different things. And I think the key message, at least from my perspective, from what I heard from you, is the preparation. That's all about what we can prepare and help people with at Walks Preston, and sort of leading into the navigation course, but also the general day-to-day understanding of your own joint mobility, your flexibility, your fitness, your body strength, your mental strength and ability to sort of say, I'm going to take on that three peak challenge. And I see this a lot as well. A lot of people are like weekend warriors, that they'll work and grind all week, and, you know, not do any activities, sit in a chair, eat lunch at the desk, and but maybe not even do any exercise. And at the weekend, it's like, well, I don't like the gym, but I like walking. So I'm going to go to the Lake District, do a 14-hour hike. They get back on Monday and they're completely broken. Yeah. What's really important for me is that people can do those, whether it's one day or a large mountain or a 3-peak challenge, and be ready to have the capacity to not let anyone else down in the team, but also to feel accomplished that they've done it and not to come back broken with worst case with an injury, if not pain or something that's going to bother them for a couple of days or weeks afterwards. So I think we can facilitate all those different things, building people up, giving them a schedule, a program. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's you only get one body at the end of the day, and you've got to look after it. And and building up to it is so important. And not overdoing it. I think because if I have on things like a 3 peaks challenge, I have seen a lot of people that they're taking Nurofen, taking it themselves just to sort of dull the pain because they've got an injury, trying to walk through the injury. But there is usually pretty clear point when you've got to say, well, hang on a sec, I've not quite built up to this sufficiently, and you got to sort of maybe miss one out or something like that. Doesn't take away the fact that what you've achieved, you've done 2 out of 3 is pretty good. And so preparing as much as you can, but then realizing you've got to be sensible at the same time.
Yeah, so I think anyone who's interested in doing something like that, exploring a particular peak on a 1 day or over 3 days or a 3-peak challenge, then we can provide that level of knowledge, awareness, expertise about looking at that group of people who might want to do it and giving them the advice or the program that would lead them up to getting it done successfully and safely. And I think that would be a really good offer. So the other thing is we get to experience more in life by doing something like that. It might seem like I couldn't walk that mountain, but what we've learned over the last 6 years at Walks Preston is we've got a lot of people who have just built up the health and the fitness, and they're now walking, half marathons up with Nikki in the lakes. They've been doing Helvellyn. It's completely possible. But you've got to kind of set your intention and be prepared to kind of get yourself in shape to do that. Yeah. So thank you for sharing some time with me on this call. And we've had a number of people viewing live for the full session. And again, I'll just reiterate, we are encouraging you to join us on the 4th and the 5th of February. And again, if we're full, then we can always run another course. But this is a course that's going to give you that keeping it simple way to develop your own navigation skills from ground zero, or even if you've had some experience in the past, and then looking into how to develop your walking and practicing those skills on the walks with Sean and with Walks Preston. Is there anything else that you want to say, Sean?
I think that's it, really. Yeah. So for those that are coming on the class, I look forward to meet you all.
Thanks for your time, Sean. It's been great, and we'll look forward to that session. Well, it's just about a week or so away, but fabulous. Thank you. It's Matt from Walks Preston, Sean, the Nav guy, and we'll see you again soon.